Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, the best damn podcast for the best damn football team. I am your host, the Football Grump. With me, as always, is Mike the Cranky Fan, and it is Jets Week.
This is rivalry week. We're right in the heart of it. I got Florida Georgia Saturday, Jets Giants on Sunday. It's one of those classic get up at 6 a.m. and get on a plane. So I am ready. I'll have plenty of adrenaline in me. Hopefully, we come out with 2 wins. Realistically, this Giant game is my real shot for a victory this weekend.
So, the Giants are technically hosting the New York Jets on Sunday, October 29th at 1 o'clock at MetLife Stadium. Halloween game. Before we get into the preview episode here, I will be drinking beer by Autodidact Brewing, and specifically I'm drinking Amanda's Wings, which all proceeds of this specific beer, go to a foundation called Melissa's Wings, which is for cancer research. So this is the beer to check out. The reason I'm promoting this beer free of charge, like I'm famous,
What a guy.
is because it is a small business that makes a quality product just like this podcast. So have a beer by Autodidact. Tell a friend about Just Giants. And we had a little bit of recent Giants news here with this Jets-Giants rivalry here coming up. Carl Banks on the Fan I guess he got kicked off. People said that he left the show. I don't know. It sounded to me like he got kicked off the show. I don't know. They were arguing over Kayvon Thibodeau and his impact and how you grade him and all that nonsense. So I don't know. What do you think?
It really amazes me how far down the pecking order sports radio has become as far as relevance and making fans entertained and making them smarter. I mean, everything now in sports radio is just, it's the audio version of Twitter where it's all about clickbaits. I mean, why are we even having a conversation about Kayvon Thibodeau actually even being a bust or not? I mean, you know, we said this 100,000 times in the show. There are so many great podcasts out there and so many good writers and so many good bloggers out there that, if you listen to Talking Giants or you listen to Patty Traina's show or you listen to Big Blue View or any of those shows, have you ever heard really a commentary or a discussion or a point counterpoint about Kayvon Thibodeau being a bust? I mean, it's a hot click item, that a hot take item. And Carl Banks, he is he is a mouthpiece for the team. He works for the New York Giants. The Fan is the network that the Giants are on and everything, and he has to do these spots. But it's amazing how these guys are just trying to, you know, get attention for themselves in a crowded market by saying silly things and having Carl Banks have to be like the take the fall for it, or take like the be the butt of the bit. I I just I really implore people, this is not 1996 anymore, where the only outlet you can get to get information about sports or to give your opinion about sports is the basic generalist who has a show on 4 hours a day, who only does his prep by reading the newspaper in the morning, knows a little bit about everything, but a lot about nothing, and says stupid things. Because, when you talk to the average fan who doesn't, most fans don't listen to our shows. We're not even a blip on anything. But even some of the bigger shows are a small percentage of Giant fans. You know where some of these dumb takes are coming. They're coming because they listen to the Fan. They read the Post. They just, I just implore all of you that don't even listen to dumb shows like this anymore. Let's try to get these stations off the market, because all they're doing is they're making you a dumber fan and a dumber person. And one of our goals on this show is to try to elevate the conversation. So when you're speaking to other fellow Giant fans, it's not just those stupid hot takes or other fans, so you can win an argument with somebody else. Like, this is Jets Giants weekend. You don't want to sound like a dummy. And unfortunately, we live in a world now where whether it's sports or politics, it's gotcha moment and saying stupid things, and people just latch on to it. So all I ask is just be better. Don't even listen to these garbage things, and certainly don't take these points and think they are relevant at all. It doesn't matter what we all think in the grand scheme. The general managers and coaches, they don't care what the fans think. They do their own evaluations. They do what they think is best for this team. So, little long-winded rant there, but I'm just sick and tired of just these dummies taking up all the oxygen when there's more legitimate things to talk about with this team.
Man, so I was really glad that that's your opinion, because this is just everything I hate about sports talk.
Mhm.
I find it to be exhausting conversation, and it was carried out in the most exhausting fashion, in my opinion. So I mean, to me, this was just like three guys saying a bunch of nothing. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is everything I hate about sports talk. If had this on, I would shut it off. It's frustrating to listen to. I think it's fruitless conversation. It was literally fruitless since they were just shouting over each other for most of it. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's everything that I hate about sports talk. And this
Yeah.
is that shit like this, and like Skip Bayless is the genesis of what led to us doing the show. Was just um, just not being able
It,
to have conversation at all because it was just a bunch of idiots.
the bottom line is sports radio and radio talk radio as a whole is an industry that is dying. Ratings are way down, ad rates are way down because now there's finally alternatives where people can go to get their information and their entertainment. I mean, entertainment is fine if you want to just entertain, but it should be entertainment that's not just toilet bowl humor or just guys acting like they're 9-year olds sitting at a bar or something and just being stupid. So, I mean, if you want to have an honest debate about Kayvon Thibodeau being a bust, I don't even want to have that conversation because it's silly. I mean, if you're comparing him to, you know, Micah Parsons, well, that's not really fair because that guy is a generational player, and everybody's probably much going to
Yeah,
not
so I
compare.
mean,
So,
so
I
that's
mean, come
sort
on.
of that's the problem I have here, is that like the conversation we're having is actually a basic level sports conversation.
Yeah.
But we're expounding it into specifics, and then screaming about it and like acting like stats from one game matter. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like everyone's at fault here. Carl Banks is just continuously bringing up stats against what we had described as an edible O line. Like that, we were like, yeah, they can eat. This is the
Hmm.
week that they have to eat. You know what I mean? And they did exactly what we thought they would do. So I mean, to repeat only stats from that as your only defense, and like legitimate things, like he did drop an easy pick six, and like it's very
Yeah.
silly, and it comes down to this: some players are generational, and they get picked in the same top five as the other players that are not generational. They're just really good. And that's it. That was the basis of their conversation. And also, it could have ended that way, but it didn't. They had to just keep doing nothing and saying nothing and shouting over each other until they hung up, and then they retweeted it and
And they
advertised
couldn't
it.
wait.
They,
They
yeah,
could not wait to. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's gross, barf. Can we move on? Have we said it
Please.
all? Okay. All
We've
right.
said it.
Sick. Next thing, we're getting some guys back healthy, and we'll get to all that. But most importantly, it looks like Daniel Jones will not be among those people. He's still not been cleared for contact. He's practicing in as much as he throws. He would not be getting contacted in practice anyway. But he is not cleared for contact. So it looks like we're going to get another week of Tyrod Taylor, which means we're going to get another week of Tyrod Taylor and Daniel Jones comparisons.
More sports talk fodder and more clickbait, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing to me, Grump, it's very simple. The discussion does not need to be, is it Daniel Jones versus Tyrod Taylor? The discussion needs to be Daniel Jones versus the future. Tyrod Taylor, for whatever he does this year, is not coming back next year. He's going to command too much money, And as long as Daniel Jones is going to be on this roster next year, which there is a 100% chance, unless he does something really, really bad, he is going to be on this roster next year. So we're not building towards a potential future with Tyrod Taylor. So the discussion really needs to be, is Daniel Jones the guy you still want to move forward with for the term of the contract? Or, if the opportunity presents itself, if we still are sputtering along and have a dismal record, you can draft a franchise quarterback. Do you make it a long-term investment in that going forward? But this Jones versus Tyrod Taylor thing, I don't know. It's just, what are we trying to do? I mean, this team is most likely not making the playoffs. I mean, it's not a question of, well, we need Tyrod to get us into the playoffs. A lot of things have to break our way, including us being a heck of a lot better than we are now. So I don't know. I just
Well,
keep playing the season before we get into these things, I think.
yeah, I mean, first of all, so long as Daniel Jones is not cleared for contact, it really doesn't matter to compare anything. So long as he
Right.
can't play, we're rolling with Tyrod because that's what we got. The
Right.
future, we'll take it as it comes. If Daniel Jones comes back and he's twice as good, we can attribute at least a good portion of Daniel Jones' struggles to a shoddier O line than what Tyrod Taylor maybe got, or maybe Dable. It's something other than, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Some kind of adjustment other than Daniel Jones getting healthy again happened. But,
Right.
we'll just deal with it as it comes. We can make that comparison when he comes back. But at the end of the day, Tyrod is not coming back next year. He's going to be too expensive is probably correct. Either way, do you see the Giants drafting a quarterback no matter what next year? I mean, it is possible. Let's just pretend for a moment that the Giants win enough to be drafting in the teens. Are the Giants drafting a quarterback next year?
I would say no. I would say if this season just completely falls apart and we get a top 3 pick or a top 5 pick or something, and one of the elite guys is there, and it's a guy they grade is very, very high, I can absolutely see it happening because it's almost like a get out of jail free card on Daniel Jones. Because if Daniel Jones is kind of middling along like he is now, and he's, decent, not great, not horrible, but you're spending a lot of cap money on that. If you have the opportunity to really upgrade and have a higher upside with a much cheaper salary for the first few years, I think you do it. But it has to be somebody that really moves the needle, and say this is a potential, a potential top 5 quarterback in the league. But I think just like if they're drafting like 16th and we're working down the list, past Caleb Williams, past Panic, past all these guys, I don't think they just draft just to draft.
So you do think that there is a quarterback in this draft that has the potential to be in the top 5 or top 10 or a top quarterback in the league?
Oh, I mean, I think Caleb Williams actually, and little side note, I was doing a little research today. Did you know Caleb Williams? What his middle name is?
You told me. It's a fun fact. Go ahead.
Saquon.
Yeah, I actually, it's funny because I knew that and forgot it. Um, but go on. Yeah.
It's pretty. I mean, the one thing I will caution Giant fans who are listening to this, and I know this from living up here a long time, that this is not a college football hotbed part of the country. This is not the South. This is not the Midwest. This is not even the Pacific Coast, where you probably, know most of your college football by, watching highlights on Sports Center. You probably watch game day. You probably watch highlights. You probably just glance real quick and see what the poll is, the AP poll, and then you watch, bowl games, probably for gambling, and you watch the playoff. Caleb Williams this year is in a very unique situation, and it's unique to probably anybody in a long, long time. Caleb Williams has already won a Heisman Trophy. Caleb Williams is somebody that's on commercials. Caleb Williams is most likely going to be the number 1 or number 2 pick in this draft. USC already is out of it for the playoff and pretty much out of it for the last Pac-12. So You are probably seeing less than optimal Caleb Williams right now if you turn on a USC game. Don't let that distort your opinion that, well, he's not as good as what the hype is, because this is, you know, we always say we want our, guys in the NFL to be professional if the season's going south or something. Remember, these are kids. These are 19, 20-year-old kids, and these are kids that are in a situation they've never been in before because now they get paid. They get money. They have more of a brand than they ever did before. I mean, college kids were never on commercials and things. And you see Caleb Williams, you see, Dion's kid on commercials. This is a whole new world. So you have to give these guys a bit of a pass for what you're seeing. So my only point is, if you watch USC play, Washington later this year or in a bowl game, and Caleb Williams is kind of uninspired his play, there's probably a reason for it. But there's enough tape of him and enough data points to say, if we're drafting second and he's there, you want this guy. Trust me.
I am not going to comment on his skills or abilities or anything he's done because I haven't watched enough yet. But you're 100% right about motivations. And, yeah, we're probably not getting the best of him in the situation he's in. It's not unprecedented. We've seen it before. We've seen other players do, more than that. We've seen players sit out whole seasons,
Yeah, yeah.
So, other roster things going on. Eric Gray and Matt Parrott went to IR. Some roster shuffling. So we can stop complaining about Eric Gray. I promise I won't bring it up anymore.
Sure.
And Jayshon Corbin was part of the roster swap. Has been picked up off the Panthers practice squad, I think. Let's get into some injuries here. It looks like Jones is not going to play. He has not been cleared for contact. It is Thursday. I can't imagine that they are going to roll with him if he gets cleared on a Friday. But you know what? They've been pretty good at hiding injuries. They've fooled me before. I guess I won't rule it out, but I seriously, seriously doubt it.
Yeah, again, we saw something. There was a stat where, there were 25 guys or something that were listed as what's the lowest thing? Doubtful, or what's the lowest classification?
I think it's doubtful.
Doubtful, and none of them have played that weekend.
Right.
So,
that's
I mean,
true.
and remember,
hang on. But I mean, the doubtful, I think probably, what I'm saying is, if he's not cleared for contact tomorrow, he's not playing. We both agree on that.
Oh yeah.
My question is, if he is cleared for contact tomorrow, since that is currently the only thing holding him back from being a full participant in practice, that's my question. Is this coaching staff confident in him just going in there and playing or not? I say I seriously doubt it. It's not about the doubtful designation or not. That's what I'm saying.
I seriously doubt it also. Again, this is not we need this game to make the playoffs. I mean, we're not even playing a conference team, let alone a division team. So I think there's a little bit of leeway for it. And again, I'd rather have him as healthy as possible. I don't want to jerk around with a neck. I don't want a guy coming in who's not prepared. He may be doing all his film work and mentally getting ready for it, but just has not had, it's been a while since he's actually been in as close as you can replicating game conditions in practice. I would say I don't think he plays. I think he gets ready for next week.
Looks like Andrew Thomas is possible, but John Michael Schmidt's much more likely. Looks like Evan Neal is likely as well, but I don't know. I could see John Michael Schmidt's playing. I think Thomas probably sits another week. I want your take on that as well. But my real question here is, if Evan Neal is a go, does he start? Or is it still Tyree Phillips? You roll with Phillips, right?
I was thinking you put Evan Neal back in. I think you have him kind of on a short leash. If he comes back and he's, his usual bad, or he's not 100% coming back from the injury, I think you pull him. But I think you bring him back.
Well, my thinking was less so hot hand, more so you have a guy coming back from injury, so you have him active, but you use him in Matt Parrott's role as the swing tackle, jumbo packages, so he gets those snaps in the game as like a I guess a warm up from injury game, and you have Tyree Phillips who is healthier, you
Well,
know.
I'm gonna have a little 4D chess answer for this. I
I
think a
mean,
lot.
also
I think
I'm not super like strong opinion on this. I'm kind of, I don't know. I
I also
I
I
could be
also kind of
convinced.
feel I also kind of feel like with Evan Neal, they may have to use a little bit of white gloves with him, where he's been taking a beating both on the field and in the media and with the fans. And is he one of these guys that's kind of like a head case where if you say you're not coming back and you're not starting, that's going to damage a fragile psyche as it is? Or do you have him come in and start and say, you're the starter, go back out there and do it, but then you have more of a rotation with him? I mean, that even if it's something is like, oh, for 1 week as you're working your way back from injury, some of these guys are just soft. And he might be, I think he's a little teetery right now on what his psyche is with this team. So there might be some head games that have to be played with him also.
Well, my question to you is, if that's the case, is that curable? Because if it's not curable, then who gives a shit? If he can't sink or swim, at some point he's going to play bad enough where you're going to have to pull him. And if he's not ever going to be able to recover from, having a bad day or something like that, then ultimately
Uh,
you got to make that fucking you got to make that determination.
yep, I agree.
And I think it's better the sooner you make that determination. That doesn't mean you give up on him, but you know that you have a short shelf life with this player. This is not a second contract player. You need to start making plans for that, and you at least know it up front. I mean, if that is the case, like that kind of thing, like, do you think that that's a curable thing, like being that kind of mentally soft?
I think so. I just don't think we're there yet to make that decision on him yet.
So you think it's like it's a product of him being a young player. Like if he can get through this hump at this time and develop properly in the future, he'll be all right. That's what you think, right?
That's what
Okay.
I would think. As he starts playing, the expectation is that he will be a better player 10 games from now than he is now. That he'll be better next year. I mean, it's possible he regresses. It's possible he's just not that good. But the expectation is there's going to be progression in his skill set and with more reps, more experience, more confidence. So I'm not quite ready to, start pulling plugs just yet. I think you go back out there and, unless it's truly untenable, and he's like, well, he's bad and he's gonna kill my quarterback and he's killing drives or something. But I don't think we're quite there just yet.
Okay. It looks like we're probably going to get Adoree Jackson back this week, I think, and that would be a huge help. Although they did pretty well against Washington, we'll get into this game and why it might be different.
Mhm.
Um, it's good to see that Barkley has seems to have come back from his sprained ankle, and while he does not look 100% to either of us, he looks like he's 70%, which is still, you know, mere mortal and not the immortal that he is at 100%.
Yep, and the number and then the running game kind of reflects that too. But
Yeah,
we expect incremental improvement each week as he gets healthier and healthier,
right.
and continued better play from this offensive line, and also that we have more of a downfield passing game with Tyrod Taylor lately. That all these factors should help him be more efficient and effective as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, And as we were saying, on the flip side, the Jets are getting healthier. They just had a bye week, so all these guys that they didn't have in their victory over the Eagles, which is crazy, should be back and ready to go. The only guys that it looks like Joe Tippmann was, still did not practice, so more bad news for them on the offensive line. But everybody else, I think, is probably going to go. Maybe if Randall Cobb is not able to go 100%, that might be something that's impactful in the game. But otherwise, I don't think they're pretty healthy. right now,
Except,
other than the big
except,
one.
yeah, yeah, that's asking Mrs. Lincoln how she liked the
I
play.
mean, but you know what?
Yeah,
That
right, of
doesn't
course,
that injury doesn't even count. That's
of
not even the
course. I
2023
know.
Jets. That's some
We joke,
hypothetical
we
Jets.
joke, we joke, right?
That
But
team
yeah,
never existed.
right.
All right, so why don't you give me your take on this game? How do you feel about the Jets altogether? How do you feel about us? You know, where's our momentum's going? How do you see this matchup? Why don't you give me your general thoughts here?
My thoughts are, well, first of all, this is going to be a lot of fun because I don't believe we've ever been to a Jets Giants game, have we, Grump? I mean, we certainly haven't been to a preseason one. The famous the 99-yard play by
That was
Victor
a
Cruz.
Christmas party for
That was
us.
no. I was actually flying
Oh
out
no.
west. It was like Christmas Eve, I think, or
Yeah.
something like that. So we've never actually got to experience this rivalry, I guess. I mean,
No, that's not true.
have we?
Weren't we at like some garbage time week 16 loss in like 2015? Didn't we lose in like week 16 on like a end like a like a buzzer beater essentially? I'm almost
So
positive. But it
that's
didn't
the
matter
impact
'cause
it's had on me. Yeah.
yeah, it was both teams were not making the playoffs. And then
Right.
that was like the whole thing is that like leading into the 2016 season is that we finally put together a defense that would close out games. Because we kept it was like 2015 was Phil. Anyway, go on.
Okay. Well, the point is, this is the first time we really cared, I guess, about going to this type of where the game is not in garbage time. This is, two teams that can, if they squint really hard, they can maybe see the playoffs. To me, this is very simple. Make Zach Wilson beat you. Do everything you can to make them as one-dimensional as you can. Make him beat you. I mean, I don't care about that one half he had against Kansas City. He is, you know, not a good core. He is a bust. If we want to talk about what busts are, this is somebody that number 2 pick in the draft and has been looked awful pretty much since he's been in the league. Um, you have to make this team one-dimensional and say, Zach, go beat us, make plays, use your arm. So to me, it's all about just completely shutting down the running game altogether, have him make a play. Um, the question is, can we do that? Can our front seven stop the running game to make them completely one dimensional? I think they can. I think that, this league is so wonky now that there's going to be one game a week, every week this year, where you just throw it out and say, and that Jet Eagle game to me is that game. Um, you talk about momentum. I think the best thing that happened for the Giants was they had a bye right after it. So their momentum, I think, kind of slows down a bit. Um, I think that win last week for the Giants really, really helps us momentum wise because I think you stop the bleeding. You start with the 1 week at a time, and you know the players, they look at the schedule and they see they play the Jets. They see there's a backup quarterback. They see that this is an opportunity to grab a win and just build from there. I think momentum is on the Giants side, absolutely. I would like to think we can score more than 14 points. We said last week that everybody's excited about Tyrod Taylor, but 14 points still would put us hypothetically as the 30th best offense in this league. I think we're gonna need a minimum of 3 scores in this game. I think we will get those. I think we win 17-10.
All right. um yeah, listen, when I look at this game, I look at all right, well, so let's start with momentum here.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if I agree with bye weeks slowing down or ramping up momentum. I think in the case of the Jets here, it could go either way. I think you could say that they might have escaped, but also like they are getting very key pieces back healthy. You
Mhm.
know, and they're probably still on a bit of a high because that was a.
Yeah, but that's different than momentum, though. That's just overall talent letter better. I'm feeling
But I
like
think
that.
it's both. I think
Yeah.
the talent infusion into that momentum, I think it still exists. But
Hmm.
I think I agree maybe that bye weeks generally slow things down. I'm just saying I think you can make an argument in either way. But uh, the defense, I think, can have a game where I think they can stack up really good performances. They ate really well against a bad offensive line against Washington, okay? But they happen to have a really good performance in Buffalo. Buffalo, at this point, seems to be a sliding ish team, a sloppy team, one that was prone to having a trap game or something like that. But regardless of whether that's Buffalo's fault or the Giants' defense for being good, that's now 2 games in a row that the defense has looked, above average, like formidable in some ways. And now they have a chance to stack that again with a game that can be stat heavy.
Hmm.
This is a bad Jets offensive line. It's still hurt. Like I said, Joe Tippmann doesn't look like he's going to play, I don't think. And even if he does, it's so questionable that, I mean, offensive line is a play in which you get hit every single play. That's just the nature of the position. So, what percentage you get him at is going to be important anyway. The Jets are bad even with their starters, and we saw that in the preseason matchup. And I think that there's going to be some really fun matchups in here. But yeah, I think that this is a game in which the defense can dominate and some momentum can be had there. And I think that Zach Wilson is a quarterback that can be frustrated by Wink Martindale, his system, his play calling.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think that that's all there. On the flip side, on offense, what kind of sucks is that in the preseason matchup this year, and not that means anything, but in the preseason matchup, part of what I was looking at when I was grading it is that the Giants didn't play their starters. They played people like Tyrod Taylor, and a lot of what I saw was like, oh man, but in the season we won't be playing. So I mean, here we are with half the offensive line busted up. Saquon Barkley, thankfully, is not on running with crutches, and we're still stuck here with Tyrod Taylor throwing the ball, and I'm not even sure that the shell shocked and literally shocked Daniel Jones. I'm not even sure that that would be better. So I was really excited for the rematch of Jalen Hyatt and Sauce Gardner. I thought that would be really cool to watch.
That.
Especially because of the trajectory of Jalen Hyatt's like ascension through this season. I mean, like virtually non-existent, and then had a huge catch in Buffalo that was legit and got taken away from him, so didn't become a stat, and then had 2 really big catches last week. Was a part of
Mhm.
their first win in forever. I was excited for that. It still can be a thing, but here's my thing. Look, I just want to. I look at the Jets defensive line and the huge rotation that they have. There's like 6 guys that are really good, and I look at some of the stuff that they're doing with stunts and twists, and then on top of that, like just the pressure they get with their front four is crazy. And then they bring blitzes on top of that are like sometimes pretty exotic. You got slot corners coming, and I just look at it and I'm like, I don't see our offensive line dealing with that. And so when I look at this game, I think that this game really, the Jets are coming off of a bye. They have a slightly better defense in that I think that they happen to be more opportunistic with their turnovers. And we are awful at protecting the football. It's been like the one consistent thing this whole season. We are bad at protecting the football. And I think that at the end of the day, with 2 really shitty offenses, that's all that this game comes down to. I think they're just more opportunistic on defense, and I think that we are worse at protecting the ball, and I think the Jets win this one 21-13, but both of these teams suck.
I want to make one little counterpoint that I'm actually looking a little more forward to the Hyatt Sauce Gardner battle because a couple of reasons. One, I think it's early, but Hyatt seemed to has a little bit of a better connection with Tyrod Taylor,
That's fair, actually. Yeah.
and two, small sample size, but Tyrod throws downfield more than Daniel Jones has been throwing for whatever reason. So I think the likelihood of seeing those two matched up is greater than if we had the Daniel Jones running it and the normal, cast of characters out there. So in
No,
that one little respect, I think I'm a little more. I think we're going to see that play out a little more than we would have in normal times.
I think it's more specifically that Tyrod just straight missed him in the preseason. Like he was wide open and he just missed him.
Hmm.
So I mean, that's really where that was coming from. Not that
Gotcha.
you're right with everything you're saying though.
Hmm.
The connection clearly, the tendency to throw it on field. I mean, listen, Jones is shell shocked. What we saw in after the Dallas game, from the Dallas game on, is not what we saw all summer.
Right.
Summer and in the preseason. I know that means nothing, but I'm just saying something happened when Andrew Thomas got hurt that it was more than just bad O-line play. Like Danny became 2021 Danny all over.
And then it got compounded worse with the Seattle game, which was worse.
Yeah.
Like you had a double whack of it in 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I whatever. So yeah, I accept that this is a game that is winnable for the Giants. I just think that it might. You know what? It might come down to momentum. It might come down to that. You're right. So the Giants are coming off of a game where in Buffalo they had a fumble and a pick. Last week against Washington they had 6 sacks. Washington only got out of that by completely altering the game plan, so it's not like they let up. They probably could have racked up probably into double digits if Washington remained what they were doing.
We should have had a pick 6 with the Thibodeau.
We should have had a pick 6, but we had a pick also. No fumbles though, right? No, I don't think so.
No.
So we have 2 dominant performances. We have an uptick in I guess you could call it an uptick. Yeah, I mean whatever. I mean we had 3 turnovers and should have had 4. So we had an uptick there. The Jets
the defense is just overall playing better. Yeah.
The Jets turnovers in that Eagles game, like the one pick was sort of like, wasn't that the one that was like a screenplay or something that was just like bounced off of somebody's shoe? Like the Jets brought the house. The Eagles had literally the best play call you could have, which was a screenplay throwing right at the blitz, and like the ball was just like bounced off of a shoe and like turned into like Quinn Williams' hands. I think I could be remembering that wrong, but either way, I made a mental note that like something was very, very fluky, and also the Eagles dropped 2 wide open passes in the middle of the field. I don't know. There was some fluky stuff that happened in that game, but
usually when you see a very good team play a very bad team, the equalizer is turnovers, which may or may not be fluky, and fluky things that happen, fluky bounces, things you don't expect to happening. Guys you expect to catch balls, dropping balls, just inopportune stuff that happens. And that's really the difference in this league between the very good and the very bad team. Sometimes it's just 4 plays that all happen to go one way from one team over the other. One question.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, what do you expect as far, momentum? What do you expect this crowd to make up to be? It is a 1:00 game, so that's usually a season ticket holder go to the game type of thing. But obviously it's the Jets, so there's a lot of Jet fans in the area, and tickets are. Are you thinking 90-10, 60-40? What do you think this is going to be?
More Jet fans than Giant fans.
Oh,
no,
I'm
sorry. That is not what I actually meant.
Okay.
What do I want the crowd makeup to be? I think there's going to be a very large contingent of Jets fans. I think it's going to be a very divided crowd. The reason I think so is I think that there was a lot of Jets hype going into this year. And I think that Jets hype is always twice as zealous as Giants hype in terms of tangible things like attendance.
It just means more to them than it does to the Giants.
Right.
Everything. They're the measuring.
So yeah, that's the other thing too, is that was, I mean, and that's not necessarily a judgment on Jets fans, whatever. I mean, this is a game I can go to that's not a home game. I mean, we would do the same thing. It's literally a home game that I have to buy a ticket to. It's not part of my season ticket package. So it's a really easy one to want to go to anyway. So this is marked on the calendar right away as an easy away game that you get to go to. So there's that level too. I mean, this is super easy. You have joint households. We're one of them. I mean, I have a sister that married into one. So, you know, I think there's a lot of like really easy things right there. But I think the crux of it is number one is the Jets fervor, I think, is twice as much as Giants fervor in terms of tangible things like that.
Yeah.
I also think that right now the Jets have a lot more to play for and have since week one. I mean, you lose Aaron Rodgers is kind of crap, but they did win that game. And then they have beaten the Eagles. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So any last minute I didn't plan to go to this game or I did plan to this and canceled it. They are I mean there is a legitimate like we could win this division cuz or not win the division, but we could sneak in because Buffalo was sliding, New England suddenly looks like garbage, and really it's just Miami running away with things. So we could sneak in as wild card. I mean there is some
Well,
upswing with the Jets as well.
to your point, this kind of transcends teams and the actual play on the field. This is again, families didn't get to go. They'll tailgate together. They never get a chance to tailgate. It's Big Brother, Little Brother. That's Battle for New York. It's Snoopy Bowl. It's all that nonsense. So I think personally it's going to be like as many Jet fans in the building as Cowboy fans, where they have a loud presence, a notable presence, but don't be confused. It's still a giant home game when they play the Cowboys. Don't be confused. It's still a giant home game, but there will be a audibly, noticeably loud Jet contingent. There will be a lot of green, and there'll be in some places small little pockets of green.
So one thing I will guarantee you is it will not look like last week's 1 o'clock game in our section where there was like a whole empty row in front of it. Like this will be sold out, right?
Every game, yeah, yeah. I sold out and
But you know what I mean.
seats,
It will be
tush,
packed.
tushes in the seats.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
We will be shoulder to shoulder.
yes.
All right, so we gave our predictions. Let's move around the NFC East. Dallas and they are hosting the Los Angeles Rams. Dallas, I believe, is coming off of a bye.
They are. Hmm. This game's in Dallas or in LA?
It's in Dallas. I have Dallas going all the way with this one. This is easy for
I do
me.
too. Same thing. Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dallas is one of those teams where they're going to frustrate you, but you can't predict that these frustrations will happen. They're going to come throughout the season. They're going to come up and bite you when you don't expect it. So you know, they are better. They are more talented than the Rams. They will beat the Rams.
I just think that the Rams are they're a feisty team. They're a struggling team, but they couldn't squeeze one out against Pittsburgh, and I know they got cheated out of a last minute thing, but I don't see it. I don't see them competing with Dallas this week. That's all.
No, agreed.
Philadelphia is traveling to FedEx Field to play the same Washington Commanders that the Giants just ate for lunch.
All right,
Thoughts?
I'll throw it out there.
Go for it.
Washington has played very well against Philly in the last couple of years. And I think it's going to
True.
happen. I think it's going to happen again.
All right, let's hear it.
This week I hate falling on this. This league is very wonky, but this league is very wonky, and I think when you have division rivals playing each other and knowing each other as well as they do, I think that difference between great and gets smushed. And I just have that sense that Washington plays up when they play Philly, and I think they're going to get it done. I mean, that's my bold predict. I call it my Daniel Jones 100-yard bold prediction of the year. This will be my for this year. Is that I think Washington pulls the upset.
I don't.
It's fine. I mean,
Yeah, I mean
that's not a bold. That's not a bold response, but yeah, I can.
So I agree with you though. I do think that Washington seems to play up to Philly's level. It's been year after year at this point. Look, I think looking at Philly, it looks like that is a super talented roster with a cutthroat head coach. Let's leave it at that. And I think that the loss of both offensive and defensive coordinator I'm not saying that they haven't upgraded or, whatever. All I'm saying is that transitioning to offensive and defensive coordinator at the very least has hindered this team. They look
Hmm.
sloppier than they did last year.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
all around. I mean, drop passes, they stuff
More
stuff looks all
turnovers.
screwed
Yeah.
up. And I know that they were
Yeah.
hurt a little bit too. That probably didn't help, but I think that just in general, they don't look as sharp as they did last year. I think that they maybe lost some important pieces, and among those were the coordinators. So, I mean, uh, that being said, it's really hard for me to pick Washington after watching that O-line in 2 straight weeks get absolutely dominated by defensive lines that are good. I still think Phillies is really, really good. It's hard for me to imagine Sam Howell surviving Phillies O-line. But you know what? I could
Well,
have said the same thing against the Jets. So,
speaking of surviving, does Ron Rivera survive till Thanksgiving?
yes, Ron Rivera survives the entire season, and I think that his role has been written in stone already. He will be a off-season transitionary part of the new ownership, new regime, new change, whether that includes a name or not, a logo or not. He will be part of that as a off-season soft casualty. That's my prediction.
Okay. Because that looked like a team that looked poorly coached and poorly excited last week and just felt like a guy and with the the new ownership situation that they want to completely turn the page. I really expect them to go big game hunting in the offseason. And I think if this keeps going south, like not saying that Philly's the impetus for it, but if Philly blows them out and they look listless and they look dead, I could see a change coming sooner than later.
Well, I don't think there's anything incorrect about throwing feelers out there and getting things lined up on the
Hmm?
assumption that he has already got a decided fate at the end of this year. Anyway, I just think that they are going to do him gracefully out. I think that Daniel Snyder was the real smear on this team and the organization, and Ron Rivera is the great face that they could put on there as part of that transition. They've gotten the smear off of, they can move on. And I think that, you know, he's kind of the dignified face of the transition. You know what I mean? I think it's just set in stone that he's going to be like an end of the year thing, but it's understood. You know what I mean? Like they know everything's cool, whatever. I think that that's sort of there.
Hmm.
And
Could be.
nothing stops them from big game hunting in the meantime. They can do all that, right?
Long as the big game isn't under contract now, unless
Right,
you go,
right.
unless you backdoor, communicate with
But like, what
someone.
about
But
like somebody like Harbaugh? Just
you
just
could
throwing that out there. I'm not saying
you could
likely.
you could talk to him right now if you wanted to.
Exactly my
Hmm.
point. So like, they could be theoretically doing a Harbaugh deal right now with the understanding that Ron Rivera is toast.
Yeah, but I think if he's lost this team this year,
Mm.
remember there's still half a
But I mean,
season left,
I
and
still I think it would have to be something where it's just like a total like behavioral issue, like something's out of control situation. But even if they don't look super lost to me. I mean, let's face it, man. They almost tied the game. That was a dropped pass on fourth down that would have been a first down. They would have had a new set of downs to tie the game. It was possible.
right,
They
but we're
didn't
not.
look lost to me. If they totally lose the team, yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I think he survives the year.
I they just seem poorly coached and poorly like there was no aggressiveness at all in any of it. It just seemed
It's
very like a
it's
very blah team.
it's flat, but it's not a mess. You know what I mean? If it
Yeah,
becomes a mess, then yeah, I think I see your point. But yeah, they were flat, but they were still, like I said, they almost tied the game. So it's not like they weren't even competitive. Like they were right there. But
yeah.
yes, they did look flat. They looked talentless in some spots. But
But
you
don't
know,
let scores be deceiving. Kind of like
don't
that.
let anything be deceiving. They
Yeah,
have more wins than us still. They have
yeah.
three
Well,
wins, and that's for starters. And second of all, we just because they got smashed by. I mean, we got smashed by Dallas. I mean, we're not talking about firing Dable just because of that. So
No, no, but I mean, he's been there. This is what his fourth year there.
yeah, like I said,
Eh,
I think he was just
eh,
it was part of a very calculated transitionary thing there.
mhm. Right. I'm not saying based on current he's going, but I'm saying if this slides out of control, I don't know if he's going to get the. You're just saying end of the year come hell or high water because if this team gets into the embarrassing levels, this becomes we're going to run a sneak on third down on the 4 yard line type of embarrassing. He's not going to last.
Well, I mean, why not? Joe Judge lasted through it.
Yeah,
I don't like I said, like they're already a 3-win team. I mean, it's hard to see them not being something like a 5 or 6 win team. I don't think they're going to be totally listless, so early as Thanksgiving, like you said. Like I just don't.
yeah.
It would have to be an abject disaster, and you know,
I guess we have different perceptions of what they looked like last week. I saw a team that was just and
I don't
I
think they're
think
good, but
I also think I also sometimes you see coaches when they think they have the writing on the wall, just coaching very timidly, and I felt like that's the way that game was coached last week too.
it was definitely coached without nuts. You're not wrong.
Yeah, I mean I don't know what do I know, but this
I
hunch.
just giving my thoughts.
Yep, yep.
All right, so we will be at this game, 1 o'clock. I'm excited for this game. This is a game time decision, right? For you, you're not game time
Oh no
decision.
no no!
Game
This is
time
gonna be
arrival for you,
this
right?
is going to be. We're hoping that Delta does its job. I have a 6 a.m. flight from Jacksonville. Um, I wouldn't count on seeing me at the tailgate, but if everything works out well, I may make an appearance. If not, we'll be in our customary seats in 124. Glad to hear Ron is feeling better and should be joining us again this week. Glad you're all feeling better. But yeah, I'm very excited. This is rivalry week. So far, I'm 1-1. Got two biggies this weekend, and I'm excited. That's what it's all about.
I am excited as well. So we will see you. I'll see you maybe at the tailgate. We'll see you at the game. And if not, we will see you Tuesday morning on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, or otherwise YouTube. Until then, go
Go
Giants.
Giants.